What's cracking, everyone? My name is Ryan, and today I want to talk to you guys about the free She really likes this headphone. All right. And we're back. All right, so this is the Dekoni and Hifiman collaboration headphone, the Cobalt. This retails in at $4.99. You can probably find this for $3.99. I bought this at Can Jam in Chicago for the show price of $2.99. And this is a closed-back dynamic driver headphone. It's actually Hifiman's driver that has been tuned in collaboration, of course, with Dekoni. And the engineer did something interesting with this in that there is a carbon coating on the diaphragm of the driver. And what they found is that depending on where they placed that coating on the driver, they could get a different frequency response of the sound. So it made it very customizable in that aspect. And the other nice thing about this is Dekoni has told me that they are doing some other modifications, inserts and things that you can put inside the pad or inside the cups of the headphone in order to either increase bass response, which may also make this a little bit tighter on soundstage. So, I'll be interested to see what Dekoni has coming out for this because they're known to do modded things, and it is 16 ohms and 101 dB per milliwatt of sensitivity. So this is going to be extremely easy to drive and almost in the territory of IEMs as far as drivability goes. And we will talk more about that as we get into sound. Build-wise, the cups themselves are all plastic, and even the mechanism here for adjusting is plastic on the end. And to be honest with you, this is kind of something I would normally expect to see on like a $50 to $100 headphone. But where I think they won out was the headband is very nice. It is nice and thick. It's a leather type material. It's a Hifiman headband, I believe. The pads, of course, are very thick. It's very Dekoni in that aspect. The headphone will come with 2 sets of pads for the first 1,000 units that they sell. Now, these are the pads that come with the headphone, and these are the Elite sheepskin pads from Dekoni. The ones that I have on here currently are the Elite Velour pads. Now, more on that when we talk about sound, because they do change up sound depending on which pads that you use. The cups on the bottom, they do terminate to 3.5 mil, and the cable that you get is just your basic 3.5 mil cable that does have a 1/4 inch adapter, but it is a nice cable. It's 4.5 feet, I think, somewhere around there. It's rubberized texture on the outside, but it rolls up really nice, doesn't key up or anything like that. So I'm perfectly happy with the cable. And then comfort-wise, this headphone is extremely comfortable. It's 318 grams of weight, and honestly doesn't feel bad at all when you put it on your head, which I will do. And then there is enough swivel on this so that when you do put this on your head, if you feel any kind of air gaps down below or up above, anywhere, you can just slightly swivel and adjust this really easy on your head, and it will stay into place, which I like. So with all that being said, let's jump into sound. All right, so the short version of the sound I can tell you is that these are very bass light. Depending on which pads that you use, you're going to get a little touch of warmth if you use the Velour pads instead of the sheepskin pads. So, that is good, but there is definitely not a lot of bass going on. It rolls off pretty quick on the low end of the bass. And so if you're somebody that really likes a lot of bass, honestly, this probably is not going to be for you. However, where they do win out, the mid-range, the treble response, and really the technicalities of this headphone are impressive. And I really want to talk about that and take you through some track examples as I do that. So what we're going to do is I want to start first with the track Mr. Morale by Kendrick Lamar. Now, you might think I'm crazy talking about a hip hop track on a headphone that doesn't have a lot of bass. But there's a reason for that. When I listen to Kendrick Lamar, I'm listening for lyrics. And I think a lot of people out there that listen to hip hop in general listen for lyrics for the most part. And a headphone like this is so good with vocals that when I listened to that track, I had just enough warmth below so that, I still at least felt the beat going on when that track started. But at the very beginning, there's like a cut from a movie, I want to say, and it's right in your ear. And then Kendrick starts in, and I mean, you can hear him spit every single lyric. It's almost like the music video that he did, DNA, where, he's sitting across from, I can't remember the actor's name, and they're just going back and forth. It's like I'm sitting right across the table from Kendrick as he's spitting those lyrics at me. And that was amazing with these pads on this headphone that I just heard it that clear. Now, would I say this would be recommended for electronic EDM and most hip hop with heavy beats? Absolutely not. Now, to go further into that, there is another track, and I'm gonna have to look at my note. The track is actually a bass and drum intro. It's on a live version of Nils Lofgren Band, and I hope I said that right. The reason why I wrote this one down is this is a live performance track of, again, bass and drum intro. But when I was listening to this track on this headphone, again with the Velour pads, the intro has some guitars and plucks and things going on, and I just heard every single one of them very precise. But what's really cool about this track is as they're doing their bass and drum intro, you hear the audience like really cheer on when the drums start to kick in. I think it's around the 2-minute mark where it starts to really kick in on the drums. And I heard every single splash of snare, every single splash of the drums, cymbals that were going on. All of it was just an experience I would expect to get with something like the Meze Elite, which is saying a lot about this headphone for its technical performance. I do think when you put the sheepskin pads on this, bass loses out even more, and it almost has a plastic type tone to it for some of the drums. And so that's why, sheepskin, I think, was still something I preferred there. And it gave enough warmth of that track. That was an enjoyable listen. And this is an excellent headphone for vocals. My wife said it with my Can Jam video. She's a big part of the reason why I bought this headphone was she loved how it sounded with vocals. And I will say, singers like Adele, Lana Del Rey, even Olivia Rodrigo, and Diana Krall, I could go on, they all sound excellent with the vocals of this headphone. But with Velour pads, what I think you get out of that is when you listen to tracks that have some warmth down below, that will really lend to that and at least make it an overall enjoyable listen. But I will talk about one recent track that I just heard, and that is Olivia Rodrigo's Vampire. Now that track, when she starts singing at the beginning, it reminds me of watching American Idol or just a live performance on TV where they zoom into the singer and you just see the microphone, just like this right here. And they're just singing. And I felt like I was right there with her. And it was so beautifully crystal clear and something that I enjoyed listening to. And there's not a lot of low end going on in this particular track. It just sounded wonderful on this headphone. Then on the sheepskin pads, it just lended a little bit more to that. And there was a little bit more upper mid forwardness of the vocals. And I will say that on sheepskin, you probably can get a little shout. And there's another track I want to bring up too, and not track, but another singer, and that's Billie Eilish. The reason why I bring her up is a lot of her music has a lot of bass and has a lot of low end. And I think if you use sheepskin with this, you're going to miss out on that. And you're going to probably not be as engaged listening to somebody like Billie Eilish. But using Velour pads, you get just enough of warmth and just enough of low end that you still hear her kind of whispering in your ears on the left and right side. And like I said, imaging is excellent on this headphone, in my opinion, and details and just instrument separation and things and voice separation, right? Because we're talking about reverb and tricks that they'll use when they record their mixes was just excellent with this. What I kind of think this headphone is going to play the best with, and that is a Diana Krall track, A Case of You. Now, this is the live performance. The reason why I bring this one up is this is more of a classical edged track, in my opinion, more so than jazz. She's got a lot of string arrangements in this one, the piano at the beginning. When you listen on the sheepskin, it's beautiful. Her voice, if you like her voice, it's right in your ear. But even if you don't like her voice, just the instruments and everything that you hear are very technically accurate, in my opinion, when it's playing. And the only knock I would give is there is a s sound to the S regions on a lot of vocalists on this headphone, no matter which pads you use. But other than that, everything just sounds so detailed and so beautiful on this. And yeah, you don't need to listen loud with this one because you get the details even at lower volumes and sounds lovely, in my opinion. All right, so one thing I want to do really quick is I do want to talk about amp pairings, because when I paired this up on amps, I found this to play better when I was going balanced out. And the reason why is, at least for my devices, so my Cayenne IHA6, if I go single-ended out, the lowest impedance out is 10 ohms. This is only 16 ohms. And I felt like that just didn't quite pair well. It kind of was a little bit more out of control than what I wanted for my music. But when I went balanced out of the Cayenne, yeah, it's powerful, but I still got enough volume play out of it. And it just really livened up the mid-range for this one and just added that warmth to it as well. And that's kind of what the IHA6 does for me anyway, when it comes to, the sound of that amp. But my favorite pairing actually was portable. The RU7 and the IFI Go Bar, I loved with this headphone. The RU7 probably more so because I use the 4.4 out, and it is just a very good technical DAC dongle solution. It sounded beautiful with this headphone and is my favorite pairing to use, but the Go Bar can give you some warmth as well. You just got to be careful with the X-Bass because actually this headphone does not do well with EQ with bass, at least not yet that I've been able to find. I even tried some EQ in my ADI2 DAC, and trying to bump up the bass really didn't do much. When I used the X-Bass button on the Go Bar, it kind of made things fluttery and just a little bit out of control on the bass, so it didn't take well to that part of it. But so if you haven't guessed already, I love the sound of this for vocals. I love the sound of this for instruments, for classical arrangements. Even though I don't listen to a lot of that, it still sounds excellent. This is actually a really good gaming headphone, in my opinion, if you're a competitive gamer. The reason for that bass isn't going to drown out any details, and you're going to hear where things are coming from. Now, I was playing Diablo 4. It's not really competitive in that nature, but my God, man, when I was running through, playing that game, I could hear, voices coming from around me that I didn't necessarily hear when I was listening on something like my, closed back Atrium, just because there's more bass that kind of drowns out some of those things that can shine through. So try this out with competitive gaming and tell me what you think on that. I personally think Dekoni should be making these velour pads the default pad, because I think these are going to cater towards a general audience more so than the sheepskin. Now, this is my opinion. I could be wrong, but especially knowing that my wife loved this pad at Can Jam, we got this home and changed her mind, and she loves velour more now. I think that says something. So I think comfort-wise, you'd be very happy with this headphone. I just think sound-wise, if you like bass, again, like I said, just know you're going to miss out on this. I should not like this headphone because I love bass. Not a bass head, but I love bass. But I do like this headphone, and I want this to be in my mix, although I'm probably going to end up having to give this back to Bree, my wife, as soon as I'm done with this video. So I better wrap this one up. If you like this video, please smash that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel because I have more things coming out here soon. I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.